We are in the provincial legislature of the Western Cape government. MEC for Economic Opportunities, economy, just tabled the budget for the Western Cape for the medium term, for the next year in the medium term. And let's dive right into it now with her, the MEC's Mireille Wenger. MEC, thank you so very much for your time. First of all, just an overview, what are the most important areas where you allocated budget to and why?
So this year we're continuing to build a Western Cape that works for all. With our 255 billion rand budget, we're prioritising the poor and the vulnerable, and at the same time growing the economy to make sure that we can increase the number of jobs in the province. So just high level, about 182 billion rand will go to education, health and social development. We're putting about 45 billion rand towards growing the economy, and we're adding 5 billion rand for safety to make sure that our communities can be safer.
How will that translate to what happens on the ground? For example, the safety issue.
So what this means is, practically speaking, it means 1,200 law enforcement officers in the most crime-affected areas of the province. It also means we'll have K9 units deployed in municipalities, and we'll also have a violence prevention program rolled out in these areas to make sure that we can combat crime as well as prevent crime.
You lamented that budgets were cut severely. How does that impact on what the Western Cape was planning to do as opposed to what it can do now?
Yeah. So budget cuts have been acute and have affected all provinces. In our case, over the medium term, it's the 6.7 billion rand taken out of our equitable share. At the same time, we have a growing population. So we've worked very strategically to make sure that, first of all, we can protect basic service delivery, that we can protect the poor and the vulnerable. In fact, over 75% of our budget is allocated to assisting poor communities. And then, of course, growing the economy, because going forward, we need to make sure that we aren't always in this situation. So health, education, social development and social services, but then also growth for jobs and making sure that we can grow the Western Cape economy by supporting the enablement of the private sector to grow and to support small businesses in particular.
Another major issue, of course, is rolling blackouts. How will the province address that issue?
Of course, load shedding is a binding constraint on the economy. We all know the economy can't grow if we don't have the power to do it. So what we're trying to do is reduce our reliance on Eskom and have a more stable supply of electricity. We're allocating 733 million rand over the MTEF to help with that. And this includes initiatives to support municipalities with their energy procurement, but also it means putting solar panels on our clinics and on our schools to make sure that learning and healthcare can continue in spite of high levels of load shedding.
We've heard from the opposition just a little while ago saying that there's no clarity as to where the money will be specifically spent. For example, with education, there's a big number put out there, but we don't know which areas will be prioritized with this funding. So how will it be prioritized?
Right, I have a very fat book that I can share with you, which literally goes into a lot of detail, line by line, specifically where the education funding will go. But it's about building schools, it's about ensuring learning, it's about catching up from the learning losses from COVID. It's about also protecting vulnerable children. So there are significant allocations for children with autism spectrum disorder. It's about children with profound intellectual disabilities and making sure that they also have the right education and learning. It's also about the school feeding scheme, which feeds 500,000 children every day in this province. We are topping up the budgets for that program to make sure that even though the cost of food is increasing, the nutritional value of those meals can remain calorific for a child's needs. So there's also allocations towards school transport, it's teachers. So there is a wide range in ways that this budget is being developed in education, and we're happy to sit down and share line by line where every rand and cent is going.
Lastly, how does a province circumvent these budget cuts? You said over 6 billion rand was cut from the budget. How do you circumvent this? And how did you ultimately decide, right, we have to prioritize these specific areas?
So we had a collaborative whole of government approach to the budget process. We immediately sat down with all our heads of department. We have our budget principles which have remained consistent, so it was about applying those same principles in this new environment to make sure that we have stability across the system. And then it's about being innovative. How can we stretch the rand? How can we improve productivity with what we're already doing? And going into the future, we have a fiscal futures project which will dashboard and help us model the unknown in the future, which will help us plan better for our budgeting. But also we're exploring alternative and blended financing options, which I think will be an innovative and uncharted territory for provinces going forward.